What's up, y'all? Shuffle, and in this video we're going to be talking about making a main character for Baldur's Gate 3. The easiest thing to consider is if you have your own RP or fantasy and whatnot that you want to fulfill, make that, right? Don't listen to what people like me on YouTube say or whatever. Do whatever the hell you want. But if you're having trouble deciding and you want the most efficient way, well, not the most efficient way, but some efficient ways to get through the game, then this is what you're looking for. It's this video. So we're going to go through each of the tabs and such. I'll talk about what's good, what's not good, give you some examples. Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking. That's what I meant to say. And me personally, well, for this video, I'm going to go in order of the tabs because I think that's just easier for everyone. But me personally, I like to start with class. So usually I go, I want to play, a cleric or a fighter or something like that. And then I pick that and then I build backwards from there. But you may not be that way. So the easiest starting point is obviously the first tab, but it talks about your origin. So we're going to be using a custom origin, but in the full release of the game, there are going to be the NPCs, the companions that you find, like Asterion, Will. These are people you find when you're adventuring, but you can also play as them if you're so inclined. You go, Asterion has a cool story. I'm playing Asterion, screw this. So you can do that. But if you're not doing that, you're going custom, then we're starting here. So when you look at a background, the proficiency skills are very important. These are two things your character gets an inherent scaling bonus at. It starts at 2, goes up every few levels for another point. And when you pick this, it's something to consider because all of this flavor text and stuff is really nice. Again, that could be the most important thing to you. You read the flavor text, you go, yeah, my barbarian's an acolyte of a shaman in the tribe, and then you go from there. Like, that kind of stuff is cool. So there's always a lot of fun stuff you can do with the backgrounds, but, if you're just looking for stuff, usually the easiest is to pick something that sounds good, like skills you want to be good at. If I'm playing a barbarian, maybe I want to be good at athletics and intimidation. They were a soldier, I don't know, got kicked out of the army or whatever because they're kind of savage and, they're not really governable and a bit chaotic and stuff like that. You could do that. There's a lot of RP potential, but also if you're looking to optimize, there are skills as well to consider. Next is race. This choice is going to get less important in 1.0 because racial stats, I believe, are going to change. So you don't have to worry about, oh, this class gets, +2 dex or +2 charisma and stuff like that. You just get to pick stats, and that's pretty nice. But something to note as well, though, is a lot of the races, except human, there's no variant human in this game, but a 5e joke. Not even a good 5e joke. Like, everyone who's played 5e knows variant human, but I digress. There are sub-races and clans and different stuff that your characters can pick, and they're going to expand on this too, which is cool. And there's more coming. There's I know that they're going to add Dragonborn, and I think half-orcs. So we're going to get at least 2 more, and there might be more that I can't remember off the top of my head. You don't have the 1.0 build, this is early access. But yeah, always be on the lookout. Check out the sub-races, whatever else. There's quite a few already in the game, and they're going to add to this, which is pretty crazy. Some don't have any. I forgot about Githyanki. Human, dwarves, right? I'm not going to go through every single one. You always have options. There are a lot of racial features that, even if we ignore the stats, if these stay in, these are going to be pretty important. So make sure you read these. There is some stuff to consider. It's not just your background, your class, optimization, whatever. There might actually be some fun stuff here that you can combine with other character or classes, I should say, and make some really cool combinations. Appearance, do whatever you want. Just however you want to identify, however you want them to look. You can expand these. You can always drop down this menu, all skin colors. You can have a green halfling. You could almost build your own goblin doing this. Probably be a little bit harder because goblins have the big ears and stuff like that, but something fun. And you could spend an hour in here if you really wanted to. And also make sure to zoom in. You can always zoom in and enjoy the rendering technology of this game, which honestly, these are the best looking characters I've seen in a video game. In terms of the realism and stuff like that, I think some other games have really good art styles and all that. But in terms of realism, these look insane. It is very impressive. So if you just leave her face up right there. Perfect. So yeah, once you've picked a race, origin, all that, if you didn't start with class, you know, if you did start with class like I would, then go back from here and go that and then come back this way. But if you went from left to right and you're picking classes, there are a few classes to consider. Actually, you should consider every class. Monk is going to be added as well, but we'll talk about the pros and cons. So, not any one class is really super good at everything. You know, you're not going to have a character that has incredible social skills, incredible combat skills. They have really good exploration skills. You know, you're not going to get all of that. You might get 2 of the 3, but you're not going to get all of it, right? So you have to make some choices, and then the rest of your companions are there to fill in the gaps. Or if you're playing in a game with some friends, then you have the ability to kind of mix and match and play off of what they're doing, or they play off what you're doing. In terms of the classes, there's some archetypes. We have, for instance, like frontline fighters. So there's stuff like barbarian, fighter, cleric can kind of frontline, paladin's a frontliner, ranger can go frontline. If you pick something they get later, they get access to a subtype where they can wear like medium armor, shields, and stuff like that, which is insane. And druid has something else too, like when you pick their circle, you can't do it at level 1, I guess it's level 2. But yeah, there are a lot of ways you can put characters on the front line. And so if you pick a character like that, might be really good at combat, might be really good at athletic stuff like running and jumping, moving things that actually factors into the game. It's important to have that stuff. But you might not be good at the other stuff that we talked about. So if you're looking for a frontline character, there are a lot of people that can stand up front, but I think the premier ones are something like barbarian, fighter, paladin, and maybe ranger if you go that specialization I was talking about, or you can just go shooty mix shoot ranger, and that's also cool. If you're looking for a spellcaster, like a full spellcaster, paladins and rangers can cast spells, but they're not like super good at it. They're not what we call full casters, where they get spells, like new spell levels, spell slots and stuff very quickly. They're kind of like half, 2/3 casters and stuff like that, if you remember that terminology from other games. I digress. So if you want to play a full caster, you're looking at stuff like bard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. If you want to pick those, then that's how you're going to cast your spells. If you're looking for someone who can roll a lot of dice, they have a lot of skills, a lot of proficiency, and they can do a lot of things, then you're looking at bard and you're looking at rogue. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, specifically the skills tab. So as you can see here, proficiencies, which we'll talk about in a sec. These are things your character is good at. You can pick most of them, especially when you're making the character outside of your background and stuff. And you notice here that rogue gets access to a lot, and they can pick 4. That's pretty crazy. And if we look at a different class, like cleric, we go to the skills, much shorter list, only get to pick 2. Benefit of cleric versus rogue is cleric can heal people, they can wear heavier armor, they can stand up front, they can do a lot of support stuff, and they have their own special things like turning undead. That doesn't mean they're better than rogues, it just means they're different. So with rogues, you can pick a bunch of extra skills, and bard is kind of the middle ground in that. Bards get access to pretty much everything, and they get other bonuses as well. They can get this thing called jack of all trades, where they get a small bonus to everything that they're not good at. And so if you need someone to, you know, roll the dice, unlock the doors, disarm the traps, investigate, explore, find the hidden rooms, stuff like that, you're looking mostly at bard and rogue. You can kind of tool anyone into doing these things if you really try hard enough, but these are the 2 that are best at it. And then finally, there is the role that in the tabletop gaming community, we call it the party face. It's like your actual face, you know? These are the people that talk to the NPCs. They talk to, you know, the kings and the queens and whatever. And if you're playing in person, usually they're the one talking to the DM as well. So There are a couple characters that excel at this, mainly the charisma-based characters. So Bard, Paladin. Paladin kind of wants a lot of stats, but they do like charisma as well. Sorcerer, because they're a charisma caster, so they need charisma to cast their spells, something they want a lot of, which makes them naturally good at talking to NPCs and using social skills. And then Warlock, the other charisma caster. So, something to keep in mind. Just quick recap. If you want to just run up and hit stuff with big sword, big axe, sword, shield, heavy armor, whatever. Barbarian, doesn't wear armor, but, you know, does everything else. Fighter. Cleric to an extent, if you really wanted to. Druid can wild shape into animals that can hit stuff. Paladin, really good for that. Ranger can either shoot or put on medium armor with a specialty. And those are your frontliners. Your full casters, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. Your healers, actually, you know, if we can talk about that for a sec. You have Bard, they have access to healing. Cleric, probably the obvious top healer in terms of output and access to spells. Druid and Paladin. You might be there are ways to like weasel in heals to other classes, but those are the primary ones. And then we have our skill users like Bard and Rogue, and then finally we have our charisma characters that like to talk to people, and that's Bard, Paladin to an extent, Sorcerer, and Warlock. So if any of those sound good for those reasons, that's what you're looking for. Also important to note, you can see their features and stuff, and a lot of them, pretty much everyone has access to subclasses or specializations and stuff. Not all of them are at level 1. So for instance, Warlock gets their subclass immediately. Wizard does not. Doesn't mean they don't have it, it means they get it later. Usually 2 or 3 is when most people have it. So if you don't see it here, they're going to get it. And that kind of diversifies your builds a bit further. I'm not even going to talk about multi-classing in this video. Just too broad of a topic. So let's see. Let's go with our initial idea, right? We have a barbarian that has like a shamanistic background, parents and stuff like that. That sounds kind of fun, right? And so we get our background feature, or I shouldn't say background features, our proficiencies in insight, religion. And these are based on, I believe, wisdom is the skill for those. So if we go to skills, then we pick a couple more. And so let's see. Oh, wisdom, intelligence is religion. Okay. So this be a little bit harder to use religion, but again, it's there for, you know, flavor. And after we have our origin skills, then we look at what else we want to do to kind of round it out. Pretty much any skill, I really think every skill in the game has a lot of uses, even ones that don't seem like they do. A lot of things just get rolled, either obviously or not obviously. Good to have them. Whatever sounds good. If your character doesn't have it, someone else will, and then you can, you know, fill in the gaps that way. So if we have our shaman here, I think instead of talking to animals, actually maybe we do. Maybe we do both. Maybe we talk to animals and we think about nature. You know, not the best for this situation, but in terms of like RP and stuff like that, it kind of fits. But if you really want to hyper optimize and stuff like that, you should pick things that your character is already naturally good at or stats they already want. So if you have a fighter character that likes strength, probably grab something like athletics. It's a strength skill. And if you want to do something that can help the rest of the party, then maybe like perception because you can find stuff. So that's how you're rolling with those. A lot of the knowledge checks, you know, they don't come up too much comparatively, but again, someone else might have it, even if you don't. So try and lean into your stats. It'll tell you right here where it says athletics, you know, strength skill. Make sure you're always looking at your stats here. Speaking of stats, that's how we're going to round stuff out. I do have an issue with how the game lays out this order because I really don't think it's the most efficient in terms of like picking what to build your character around, but you know, it's what we have, so I can't fault it too much. But in terms of ability scores, these are very important because, I mean, just in general, if you've ever played 5e, you'll know that these are very important. And in other role-playing games, they do matter, but in this game, in this rule set specifically, I feel that they're even more important because the cap is lower. It caps at 20. Really hard to get past 20 without items or really special stuff like Barbarian being level 20, for instance. And it's important to make sure that these stats are in good spots. You can't make all of them good. It's just, it's too many points. You don't have enough to spread them out. So it's best to focus on specific things. Your character likes to hit stuff. You need strength. You want some armor, or you want to go with ranged weapons, then dexterity. You want some hit points and concentration checks, which it doesn't say here. It should, but if you're spellcaster, constitution is still very important. Intelligence, this is really good for knowledge checks, but you know, very few other things need it. And then wisdom can do other social things or help you find stuff. And it's a very prominent saving throw. So if you get attacked by a spell, usually it's a wisdom save if it's something nasty where you lose control of your character. And then there's charisma, which is the social skill. And if you really want to, like if you don't want to pick one of the things, like if you don't want to pick a bard to be the party face, but you want to do it with your barbarian, you can. You just go and pick some proficiency, like Guild Artisan, which gives you insight, and because insight is used when you're talking to people to see if they're lying. Persuasion, to persuade people to get what you want. You know, you can do something like that. Then when you go back to ability scores, you can sync something else a little bit, because you're gonna have to move stuff around. And then you could bump up your charisma. So just like that, anyone can pretty much kind of party face. They just won't be as good at it. And you probably don't need 14 or something like that, but because you're losing too many stats at that point. Yeah. So that is the idea behind it. Make sure that you do play around with these if you really want to try and squeeze a bit more out of it, but you don't have to. You can just use what the game gives. Fine. Yeah. I hope that this helped in a way. I hope that you're a little less lost on what to pick. You know, my recommendation, I would say pick a charisma character, just because they're the most prominent. You get to see them in a lot of the cutscenes. You get to succeed on, you know, the dialogue checks and stuff like that. Sometimes you can avoid a fight doing that. You don't have to though. Like I said, you can just drop charisma on someone else. Try it that way. It's also fun to not win everything. You know, it's also fun to fail a lot of the social things, not be able to talk your way out of stuff. Some people have fun with that too. It's up to you. Yeah. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.